Well, I'd screw Stormy, marry Melania, and kill Eric.
As a result of Stephen Colbert's harsh criticism of Donald Trump, there has been a commotion in the political community. Given how unstable Trump is, let's analyze the humor and the humiliation and be sure to subscribe to help the movement.
The presidential election is fast approaching. Convicted felon Donald Trump needs all the campaign cash he can get to pay his legal fees.
This one strikes it exactly right. Trump's financial issues are getting worse, and his campaign is focused more on avoiding his numerous legal disputes than it is on winning support. The fact that a former president needs campaign funds to pay for legal fees reveals a lot about his moral character and suitability for government. That is a great cry from the respect that our leaders ought to have.
He sent out a fundraising email with the subject, "Haul out the guillotine." Now, those of you with a refined palate might detect a subtle note of mob violence there, but Trump can also be...
Tongue-in-cheek piercings, Trump's scant political experience, and the mobitone of his emails are deliberate strategies designed to incite fear and allegiance among his supporters. Trump has always profited from chaos and discord. Securing backing by deceitful methods is far from presidential. It is risky and manipulative.
Sent supporters an email with the subject line, "I love you," followed by the heartwarming sentiment, "Red MAGA hatch." So beautiful. It reminds me of Shakespeare's famous sonnet, "Shall I compare thee to a summer's day? Buick LeSabre."
Trump's attempts to be sentimental are failing, and his attempts at sincerity are just as phony as his policies. The absurd comparison of a campaign email to Shakespeare demonstrates how far from real feeling the leader is and how all of this is a front to trick his supporters into pulling out their wallets.
Also on the hunt for a running mate. Reportedly, he's gathering info from a select group of Republicans by sending them vice presidential vetting paperwork. And we have a copy of the first question. Complete the following chant. Hang your name here.
Bears Joe's analysis of the BP screening process highlights the absurdity of Trump's political maneuvers and his clear preference for supporters over eligible candidates. It appears that Trump is looking for someone who will replicate his risky. It serves as a stark reminder of how Trump prioritizes personal loyalty over the interests of the country, rather than selecting the most qualified applicant for the job.
Folks Trump is considering include Marco Rubio, J.D. Vance, and Tim Scott. But one notable name not on the list is South Dakota Governor Kristi Noem. She tried her best. She begged.
The former president, Christie's absence, despite her meek attempts to win his approval, exposes Trump's weak character and ego. It's more about who can flatter him the best than it is about credentials. Trump's vice presidential shortlist appears to be a hue with pine, each ready to court favor. This is not a reality show. This is some leadership.
Supreme Court are having a bit of trouble right now, starting with conservative grandpa listening to you talk about your gender studies major, Clarence
Thomas, a conservative grandfather who is listening to you chat about your major in gender studies, is one of Trump's allies on the Supreme Court, who is currently facing some difficulties. The conversation then shifts to Trump's influence on the court, particularly his relationships with Justice Clarence Thomas. Immoral failings and intimate ties to millionaires are a reflection of the corruption. This isn't just a legal problem that Trump has allowed, it's a direct outcome of his administration, which has promoted unethical behavior at the highest levels of government.
Amended his 2019 disclosure form, acknowledging he should have disclosed those free trips from his billionaire donor, claiming he inadvertently omitted the trips on his previous reports. Hey, no, it wasn't a lie. It was an inadvertent omission. Oops-a-daisy.
The idea of an advertisement, this is the kind of behavior that Trump has normalized, where powerful people feel they can flout the law without punishment. This detrimental precedent erodes faith in our institutions and is absurd. It also echoes Trump's numerous excuses for his own moral shortcomings.
How do you live?
Yeah, somebody said, how do you live? That somebody? His doctor.
We talk about a certain convicted offender for a long time. Colbert quips, rather rightly, that a large portion of the program is centered about Trump. It's not just about entertainment. It's about keeping a powerful figure accountable through humor and scrutiny. So make sure to subscribe to help promote the movement you support. Trump's actions have often provided fodder for satire and criticism.
Heaven, okay? You want to go to heaven. If you don't have heaven, you almost say, what's the reason? Why do I have to be good? Let's not be good. What difference does it make?
The reason to be good is because of heaven. That's like a kid saying, if it's not for the elf on the shelf, I would murder my parents.
Colbert's joke on Trump's health alludes to the unhealthiness of both his personal and political lives. His reckless behavior, both within and outside the workplace, reveals a deeper disregard for morality and norms. The comedian highlights how absurd it is.
In Florida, she says, which Democrat, dead or alive?
Dead. I choose dead.
Trump's naive belief that he will be accepted in heaven reveals his transactional view of morality and how self-serving this viewpoint is. It also shows how immature and self-centered Trump is, and it stands in stark contrast to the real ethical concerns that a leader should be concerned with.
Says, which Democrat, dead or alive, would you sit down for dinner with to discuss ways to unify our country?
So he's not a Democrat anymore, but I used to get along really well with Joe Manchin. I got along with him, and he would meet a lot. He said, "You're doing a great job. You're a great president." And when this impeachment hoax started happening, he said, "I'll never vote against you. You're a great president." And then he voted against me. I never spoke to him again.
Colbert's astute observation highlights how absurd Trump's fixation with loyalty and grudges is by choosing a deceased Democrat. Trump discloses his
democratic rule
in a second term, whom he called hostages and victims and warriors.
We're going to do a lot of things. We're going to look very strongly at J6. Those people, there has never been people treated more horrifically than J6.
He also accused the Capitol Police, who were brutalized during the attack.
Hostages. Those J6 warriors, they were warriors, but they were really more than anything else. They're victims of what happened. All they were doing is protesting a rigged election. That's what they were doing.
Of setting up the rioters to be arrested.
And then the police say, go in, go in, go in. Go on in, everybody, go on in. What a setup that was. What a horrible, horrible thing.
Today, Donald Trump made his first visit to Capitol Hill since he was president. His first time on the Hill since his followers ransacked the Capitol on January.
The inaugural stuff should we call the Capitol Police? I mean, the National Guard? Why weren't the National Guard there?
Today, 6 Republican senators, led by Trump vice presidential shortlister J.D. Vance, put the oppose all Biden nominees part of that vow into writing.
Secretary McCarthy and Senator Schumer, we're at Fort McNair. You know what's going on there. Okay, well, D.C. has requested the National Guard, and it's been denied by DOD. I'd like to know a good goddamn reason why it's been denied.
Senators explained that they would block nominees, including anyone who has suggested the Trump prosecutions were reasonable, anyone who endorsed Trump's guilt.
We need them fast. We've all had to. I've never seen anything like this. We're like a third world country here. We had to run and evacuate the Capitol.
Anyone who supported organizations that celebrated the indictment of Donald Trump, and anyone who supported Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg or supported lawfare or censorship in other ways.
They have not denied it. I spoke to the Secretary of the Army. He's given the full okay to give the National Guard. He said it was not denied. I'm going to call up the effing Secretary of DOD.
Now, these Republican senators say that their blockade will last until Election Day. And in practical terms, that means the U.S. government will not be able to appoint representatives to things like the UN General Assembly or the World Health Organization.
We have had some mixed messages about national response of your request or our request as well for the National Guard to move in.
Or even to the not particularly political seeming places like the International Civil Aviation Organization and the Public Buildings Reform Board.
He told Republican lawmakers behind closed doors he wants to eliminate the income tax and replace it entirely with tariffs.
Donald Trump is certainly the worst, but the worst Republican, because you and I both know Trump is actually not a Republican.
No.
The worst figure in my mind, and I gave him a lot of money and I organized for him, and I'm mad at myself for doing it, is Kevin McCarthy.
Effectively taking us back to the 19th century. This idea makes as much sense as ripping up the entire interstate highway system and replacing it with canals.
Kevin McCarthy Kevin McCarthy is a spineless jellyfish. He had Trump lights out on January 7th. He could put him right through the ropes. January 7th.
Yep.
He had McConnell. He had Pelosi.
Former senior policy advisor of the National Economic Council, Brendan Duke, explained further, quote,
and he blinked. And he told people in the coalition, oh, Trump's going away. Let's not go after him. He's never going to come back. And then he got worried, and then he flew to Mar-a-Lago.
Another way to put Trump's latest incredibly unworkable idea, one, get this, it would raise taxes by $5,000 for a typical family.
And Trump's visit to debunking a report that he called Milwaukee.
Correct, and he hits the bullseye in that tweet like he often does.
Exactly. Because who can picture Trump and not think accuracy in tweeting?
Correct, and he hits the bullseye in that tweet like he often does.
Exactly. Because who can picture Trump and not think accuracy in tweeting? And have you seen this psycho who will not only blindly repeat anything Trump says, no matter how crazy? He says, no throwing out the first pitch. You know, President, no, he's not going to do that. He said he'd like to, but throwing super classy leather binders that look like the menu at Beefsteak Charlie. Only millennials could ruin threesomes by making them monogamous. I got to tell you. Let's see, I'll throw out the Mexicans and bring back torture, and the lady will have the fillet. He keeps holding them up. After he signs them, like, look, look. Finally, I have important news, again, California news. Felicity Huffman was released today after serving 11 of her 14-day sentence.
In the same way that you can look at a weather report, and one weather report comes out and says it's going to be cloudy, and the next one says there's going to be light rain. No one lied to you.
The good news for her is that she got out early. The bad news is that she is now a member of the Aryan Brotherhood. Yeah, you know, sometimes weathermen do disagree on what the weather's going to be like tomorrow. Conflict of interest, I also sell my own Bible. This woman said, I used to be a hooker in Moscow and Trump me. Well, I never heard of this Trump dude, but he looks guilty as this guy here. He's probably going to have a cellmate. So these are things you might want to look out for if you are, you know, if you're the person who becomes Donald Trump's cellmate. Don't believe him when he says how many cigarettes he's worth. Oh, look at this. I'm already on another Trump jury. Well, that's... I'm totally into this trial because it's the one where the chick bed, right? Oh, this guy really wanted to get out of this. He said, I'm dating a cicada, and this will be our first time to 17 years. Explain to him that he's not allowed conjugal visits from his daughter. He loves compliments, so tell him that jumpsuit really brings out your orange. Don't be surprised if one of his cavity searches turns up Sean Hannity. And finally, new rule now that the 25th Amendment, the one about removing a president who's incapacitated, keeps popping up in the news. And finally, new rule, before summer is over, Donald Trump must give everyone a vacation from himself.
The way a leader should behave is not like this. Real leadership is working with others, even those you disagree with, for the benefit of everyone. One fundamental weakness in Trump's character is his inability to grasp this. Trump's response reveals his transactional attitude toward relationships, which someone cuts off entirely if he serves his interest poorly.